So please, what we're going to do is we're going to have a fireside chat with him. We're going to ask him a couple of questions first, Paul and I will, and then we're going to put it out to the audience. So just out of interest, how many of you want to ask him a question? So we got quite a few of you. Okay, fantastic. So please, we are totally honoured, privileged, and so chuffed to bring Lord Sugar to Cardiff. Please welcome to the stage, Lord Sugar. Well, what can I say, ladies and gents? How wonderful is this? So, Lord Sugar, welcome to the Introbiz Expo 2018.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a very positive person, and I like to start asking questions about positivity. So, what has been your highlight of your career to date?
Well, there's too many of them. Depends where you want to start. You know, I started my business when I was 17 years old, coming from working for somebody and then working for myself. And that day that you did the first deal, if you like, for your own account was a bit of a highlight, yeah? And then progressively on, there have been other highlights. I can't think of them individually at the moment, but producing a product. I'm a manufacturer. I have been a manufacturer all my life, and bringing out a product which becomes the best-selling product in its category is quite an achievement. So that's a highlight. So we became the biggest manufacturers of computers in Europe. Was a highlight. And my wife would say the highlight was when I met her, I suppose.
Mr. Stone says, don't you?
Highlight being Mrs. Bell.
So, do you want to ask me a question?
Yeah, Lord Sugar, I was inspired by our business mentor, Sharon Lecter, the co-founder of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Who inspired you in business when you were...
Well, some of the people that, I mean, you've got a young audience here today, so there are people that have long gone that they wouldn't even know about. But I mean, Arnold Weinstock, for example, was a great leader of a company called GEC. He's in the electronics industry. This is where I came up from, the electronics industry. So I would look up to that type of fellow. My other friend, Rupert Murdoch, for example, he's got a lot of balls, put it that way. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
No, it's not working. No, it's not working. It is it?
Can you hear me over there?
Yes, yay!
The guy that, I would aspire to, yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. So, Lord Sugar, you have Amsfest. Tell us a little bit about Amsfest and why you set up the company, one of your new companies.
Well, Amsfest is a company which is an incubator for people like Mark Wright and Alana, who you've heard from. And it is an investment company which is prepared to invest with young people who have an idea or have a small business already, and where we will fund it as simple as that, but not only fund it with money, but fund it with experience, mentoring people. I've got a backup team of accountants and people like that will assist, take away all the aggravation of the boring side of business, VAT returns and PAYE and all that stuff, and just let the person get on with what they're good at doing.
So,
Water?
I'm right, yeah.
So what has been your biggest mistake in business, Lord Sugar?
Oh, there's a lot of mistakes. The most important thing is to learn from your mistakes. I wouldn't like to talk about one particular big mistake. There's been a lot of mistakes in choosing the wrong product category, choosing the wrong business, choosing the wrong market to try and go into. But what you do is you learn from those mistakes. That's the biggest learning curve that you can get in business. You have to make some mistakes in order for you to know what to do right.
And not make the same mistakes twice.
Hopefully not.
Okay, so we're going to put it out to the audience now. So we've got a few on here. Would you like to ask a question? From someone from the Open University? On this table?
Questions?
I think you need to get a good microphone.
We're on at last. Young man, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. We're from Haberdashers Monmouth Schools, and we've recently won the Young Enterprise Award for Best Student Company in Wales for our company, My Slides. If we were to continue with the venture now, do you think now is a good time for young people to be starting businesses?
Sorry, could you just say again what was the company?
It's called My Slides.
Oh, yeah, but what does it do?
We create personalised sliders, which are like PVC sandals, and we print on them using dye sublimation.
Okay. And so your question is?
Is now a good time, in your opinion, to be starting a business?
Well, as a young entrepreneur, for example, it's always a good time to start. There's no kind of excuse as to saying, well, this is not a good time to start in business. The only thing that I would say to anybody starting a business is that you don't jump out of bed on one Monday morning thinking, I think I'll start an airline. So, you either have to have some experience in that field that you are thinking of going into business of, or have worked for somebody in that field. And before you even attempt to go into business on your own, you need to have some experience one way or another. Now, I don't know whether you've got any experience in flip-flops, but if you've got a passion for them, well, there's no reason why you can't sell them other than it's a very competitive market, I guess. A mass-produced item which was normally made in China, yeah.
Okay, next question.
All right, Teresa, we go on here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. So as the business world is ever expanding and fast paced, do you think that there will be any changes in the way that you establish your business if you were to start again now?
The era in which I started my business enabled me to produce electronic equipment on a small scale, in a small factory, in a small workshop. So, could someone who wants to be in the electronics industry today do the same, start making an Apple phone or an equivalent? The answer is no. But that doesn't preclude somebody starting again. Things have rapidly changed in our industry. And so if I was to want to start a business again today from scratch, it would have to be in the industry that I was in, but have to go about it in a completely different way. We used to make stuff literally in a factory no bigger than this stage and sell it to retailers. You can't do that with electronic equipment these days. It's made in mass volume, mass production, and so an individual wouldn't have enough capital to start up. But what you could do is design a product, have it made by somebody else for you, and so on and so forth. So if your question is a roundabout way of asking me, if I was to start from scratch today, would I be as successful as I've been? The answer is yes, no question of it. And that's because I have the self-confidence and the drive and the determination to do it.
I think the BBC is here today. Kate, where's Kate? Kate? This? Oh, that's okay, that's fine. Okay, lady in the...
I'll get to you. I'll get to you. Might be better if I do that, Trace, so I know where I'm going.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. It's Sandra Young from AY Dance. From your humble beginnings, when you knew that you desperate what you wanted to do, you knew where you were going, you knew how tough it was going to be. Is there or was there ever a point when you knew, yes, I've made it, I've done the right thing, I've gone down the right path, I've arrived, and how did you get there, basically, to that point?
Well, I think I've already answered that question with the first question that was asked here, was that the decision to leave my last employer when I was 17 or 18 years old and take up doing what I was doing for him, for myself, and recognising by the end of that week I'd made more money in that week than I would make in 6 months working for that guy. So that's it, you've done it, you've arrived. And the penny has dropped, so to speak. Move on now.
How did that make you feel?
Well, obviously, it was a nice feeling, a very secure feeling, and one which gave you that independence, that you didn't have to rely upon anybody else and you could control your own destiny.
Okay, we have a gentleman here.
Yeah, hi Lord Sugar. I'm based in the valleys in Tonopandi, quite local here.
Sorry?
I'm based in Tonopandi up the road here from Cardiff.
If you were speaking English.
Where Tom Jones is from Pontypridd up the way.
I still can't hear you, understand. Anyway, what's your question?
Yeah, I'm a property millionaire, but I've recently diversified my assets into other things like gold, silver, and quite recently cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Just wondering if you have any...
Have you been keeping your eyes on Bitcoin today?
Yeah.
It's one you're still sitting in.
So just wondering, are you a fan or not a fan of the cryptocurrency and blockchain
It's
technology?
total garbage. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. My name's Peter Davis from AWF Soul Show. And before I ask the question, I'll give you some background. I left the military three years ago, and there were three things that I did. One was apply for a job I now am proud to hold. The second, sadly, was to be an extra in Star Wars. Sadly, I was too short, apparently. And the third was I looked at applying for The Apprentice. And the last one was I looked at applying at The Apprentice.
Right, okay, the question is?
One thing that put me off 2.5, 3 years ago was I lacked the ability that is in this room today.
You lacked, sorry?
I lacked the business knowledge and ability in this room today, coming from the military. What advice would you give to somebody who's for the last 3 years been doing what I do to actually put myself forward for you?
Well, if you was in the military, I'm assuming that you was a soldier. Yeah. And how we would apply that to business. I mean, obviously, I don't know what section of the army or the services you were in, but you must have accumulated some skills. And there's a lot of people that have come out of the military that may have been allocated skills within the military, which are organisational jobs, things like that. It's no different to anyone else, really. It's what experience you have attained and how you can apply that for yourself. I mean, I'm not being facetious, but you can't start your own army, for example. No. So I'm not quite sure what your question is. I mean, you're a soldier and you want to be a businessman. And you can only be a businessman if you have any experience or a seed of an idea, or whether you have accumulated some experience in a certain area in the military that you can apply to the civilian world.
Thank you.
Giovanni? Push me off it. I'll come to you next year, okay?
I'll come over here so you can see. So, hi, my name's Liam Richards and I'm from Excel Martial Arts, and we help children excel in life by giving them the confidence to achieve their goals and dreams in life. What would you say are the most important things that you teach children today to really excel in life?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's coming away from business, really, and sticking to life itself. As far as I'm concerned, children need to learn to respect their parents, obviously, to respect their elders. I mean, it's a bit old-fashioned, to respect their teachers, to learn how to turn away from the temptation of drugs and crime, and to be nice, just generally nice people. And you know what? If they achieve all of those points that I've just made, that's good enough for me. They don't have to be millionaires or whatever. It's good enough for me. And that's the most important thing.
Thanks for your question. James Giovanni.
Hi, Lord Sugar. My name is Giovanni Malacapino. I own restaurants in Cardiff. I'm the longest going Italian restaurant in Wales. However, in the past I've made some bad decisions in buying things. One of the things I bought was the park, the whole turf at the National Stadium, the Arms Park, you know. My mistake at where they play rugby. So I bid for it in an auction, and I bought all the pitch. So my question to you is, what's the one thing you bought lots of, and how did you sell it?
Football players. You want to know the question of how you sell it?
Now, how do you get rid of it? So when you buy something, you should. I bought a rugby pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I sold it. Thank God.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? And that was crazy. But what's the thing that you actually bought, which you wish you hadn't bought it, and then you were stuck?
Well, there's lots of things. I mean, in respect to products, for example, that we made that basically just backfired and didn't sell, you have to wipe your face and walk away. And on occasions, you know, you just have to scrap them and throw them away. I'm not sure you can just scrap a rugby pitch, but if it's that bad a deal, then you just wipe your face and walk away, or see if you can get a planning consent.
What if you can't afford to?
Well, then you shouldn't have bought it in the beginning.
But I did sell it. I made a profit to give it to charity. Thank you.
Thanks to you. Next question, lady here.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. How are you? Okay. My question is.
That's your question.
My question is, what does it take to change your mind in business? I'm a massive Tottenham fan, and I saw an interview you did with Jurgen Klinsmann when he first left, which basically meant that you were never going to bring him back to the club. We were very grateful that you did, but I just really want to know how that interview went and what it does to change your mind in business.
I was an idiot, really. Basically, if I had my time again in football management, I wouldn't succumb to the pressure of the chairman do with managers, prima donna managers, and stick to the so-called unofficial rules that the chairman must never open his mouth. If I had my time again, I would have been more vociferous, so to speak, and spoke up against some of the so-called geniuses that I employed to spend my money.
Okay, over this end now.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. My name is Ellie Duffus. I work for a company called Elixir. I've recently been told that you are a pilot, and I've also recently been in a Cirrus aircraft, which was amazing. So my question to you is, what inspired you to be a pilot, and do you prefer flying or being flown?
Well, I've been flying since 1970, I can't remember, 75 I think it was, so I've been a private pilot since then, and I've owned an array of aircraft. That particular one you're talking about is my current one. It's tremendous technical electronics on it. It's a great plane, and I just have a passion for flying. Flying is my one of my hobbies. It's as simple as that. You know, to understand the technical and mechanical way that things work, to understand aviation, navigation, all that stuff. It's my pastime. I also have a jet which we charter out, so aviation is part of my life.
How long did it take you to fly?
Well, in those days, I can't remember, I think in those days we had to do at least 50 hours of flying and a lot of learning of some boring stuff, you know, a lot of boring stuff that you forget the minute that you've walked out the door. But nowadays it's similar. I think you can do it in 60 hours, but there's 7 very tough exams that one has to pass to get a pilot's license, not to mention medical.
Lord Sugar, you have a question from Reese, who's 16.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. As this gentleman said, my name is Reese. I've been involved in business from the age of 13. I spoke at the show last year. You say that sorry, I'm going to pronounce this wrong probably, but you say Anvil is set up to help young people with an idea or a small business. So what is your number one piece of advice for a teenager who has an idea or a small business in a rural area? Because it's specifically hard for people like that to find support.
Well, look, don't dream and don't rely upon government at all or any of these so-called schemes out there, because basically, get real, you need money. You need some money to start a business, okay? You're not going to do it without any money. You need an idea, you need a skill, and those 3 elements, then you can start the business, okay? It's as simple as that. You can't just talk yourself into business. You definitely need money. No bank out there is going to lend you any money, nothing to do with your age. I'm delighted that someone as young as you is inspired, but whether you're 16 or whether you're 26, 36 or 60, the bank is going to give you 0. Simple as that. Until you would prove yourself and show them some form of earnings or income, some kind of, regular kind of profits and all that stuff. So if you've got an idea and if you've got experience, you need some fund yourself to get going. And some businesses, particularly what I would call the service businesses, you do need quite a bit of money, because it's not a case of buying some, car aerials like I did for £1 and selling them for £2. Literally, that's quite easy. But if you're in a business like estate agency, where you get your money from selling a property, or if you're in a business like recruitment, where you get your money by finding people a job somewhere, it can take quite a while for you to establish yourself, and therefore you've got a cash flow issue.
We're at the back now, Lord Sugar.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. I'm Wendy Hobbs from Dreams and Wishes Charity. First of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you to you for granting a wish to a seriously ill child of our charity and spending time with the family.
The young lady who came to the House of Lords, was it?
Yes, Martha. And she had an amazing day, so thank you very much.
Yeah,
It meant the world to the family. And my question to you, Lord Sugar, is how best can a charity like Dreams and Wishes engage with businesses?
Look, I'm going to be very honest with you. Particularly when the economic climate is tough, most businesses are, particularly small to medium-sized businesses, are frankly sick and tired of being approached by charities, because at the end of the day they don't have enough money in some cases to fund their own business. Also, devotion of time is a big issue, okay? And so if there's some reward, and I'm not going to say commercial, but I mean apart from the compassion part of it, if there's some kind of reward that can be gained by the company in question in order to support your particular charity, then it might be successful. And again, not wishing to be too mercenary, but you'll find in many companies where the directors or the owners have had a relative, a friend, a child, or whatever that suffer with the particular issue or the problem that the charity supports, and therefore you already got a kind of an in, if you understand what I mean, an in of sympathy. It's a very, very difficult thing to make small to medium-sized companies just part with their money and indeed their time.
Okay, next question to you.
Hello, Lord Sugar. Hi, my name is Ben Sweet from Sweet Media Digital Marketing. Thank you for being here, and thanks Tracy and Paul for getting here. My question is, as entrepreneurs, we're typically constantly stepping outside of our comfort zone, moving from bigger and bigger challenges and stretching our goals. What challenges and how are you stepping outside of your comfort zone right now, or what projects do you have on the horizon?
I've actually travelled to Wales. That's enough, isn't it? Well, I'm always stepping outside of my comfort zone. That's what I've done the whole of my life, really. That's what you do in business, is risking, trying new things. It's your maturity and experience and your gut feeling that will tell you whether you're doing the right thing or not. But you can't accumulate until you speculate, so to speak. So, yeah. I personally wouldn't get involved in something that is completely alien to me, like bitcoins, for example. That would be well out of my comfort zone, and I wouldn't go anywhere near it. I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. And yet there are some people that have, some people that claim they've made money on it. To me, as soon as I heard about that issue, that sector, it was out of my head and out of my mind. But as time moves on, I have some companies that have started to look at the vegan market, for example. It's a growing market of people wanting healthier foods, lactose intolerant, and all that type of stuff. And as times change, you think, well, maybe there's a market there in that area. I don't know anything about it, but I'm prepared to learn about it because it seems it's got some legs.
Okay, next question.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. John Saunders from the Dead Canary and Smarter Kitchens. First of all, welcome to Cardiff. A lot of proud Cardiffians and Welsh people in the room, so welcome to Cardiff. My question is quite easy and simple. If I was to get a job with you, or apply for a job with you, what one trait have I got to have in order to be successful with Lord Sugar?
The trait is to work hard, be focused on what you've got to do, and that's all I can ask, really, is focus, loyalty, and work hard. That's all I can ask for. Now, if you turn out to be incapable of doing the job, and you won't last 2 minutes, really. It's got nothing to do with your will or what you think you can do. I'm not going to employ you for much longer if you can't do the job that I've employed you to do. It's as simple as that. But all I can ask of you is this is what I want you to do, get on with it, and show me how hard you work, show me how focused you are, show me how innovative you might be, and show loyalty to the company. I can't think of anything else to say.
So, Lord Sugar, I know everyone would love to hear in the room today, if you didn't want them in your company, what would you say to them?
That is pathetic. It's pathetic. I've only been here for about a couple of hours, and you're about the sixth person that said you're fired. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to cover as much ground, ladies and gents. Apologies if I can't get to you all, okay? Next lady.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Janae, and my question to you is what do you do to unwind? You've obviously been on a journey to this, the entrepreneurial journey. Did you ever stop to unwind, and do you think it's important to do that, to have that break?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite a disciplined person, believe it or not. I work 5 days a week, always have done. When I say I work 5 days a week, I mean I work 5 days a week. Like, for example, whilst I'm still awake, I'm working Monday to Friday. Now, and of course that has changed over the years with the advent of the internet and email and all that type of stuff. And then the weekends, I'm off. It's a complete switch up because you have to have time off, flying, for example, or cycling or whatever. And you tend to recharge your batteries in doing that.
Just here.
Good afternoon, Lord Sugar. Chris York from Gorilla Plastics up in Bridgend. One of the questions which is, or one of the points which is often made to me is how are we preparing for Brexit as a company? I have no idea, if I'm honest. I'm filling the pipeline, I'm trying to get as many opportunities as I can, but how would you personally say that you are preparing for Brexit, an unknown?
I can't help you, I have no clue, and neither does anybody else, I've got to tell you. Your concern is not exclusive to you. One thing I will say, and whether you can precipitate this message through to anybody else, is this. So we'll summarise it like this. In 2016, for some reason better known to David Cameron and some of his party, they decided to invite the public to decide whether they wanted to leave the European Union, right? And it was some kind of charter that I think that he had promised in order before they got re-elected. And we had that referendum. And it is my sincere belief that a lot of the vote for it was a protest vote against the government, and that respectfully a lot of people didn't know what they were voting for. It wasn't, and to be fair, it wasn't articulated that well, in the sense that we're asking you to vote, and here's a crib sheet of what this means. If we leave, this is what could happen, and if we stay, well, nothing's going to change, it's going to be as it is, but this is what can happen. The public didn't know the ramifications. Some of the public were lied to by the likes of Johnson and Gove with their £350 million bus, whatever it was. And I've advocated in the House of Lords that the damage that could have been caused by those lies will change the lives of everybody in this country for the next God knows how many years. So to me it's a criminal offence. I've also advocated in the House of Lords that in future electioneering, be it for a referendum or for an election, that claims made by politicians need to be scrutinised. They need to be qualified by an independent auditing party. So, for example, as a chairman of a public company, when we write our annual report, we can't put a load of flannel in there, a load of rubbish in there. It has to be checked by accountants, lawyers and all that, that we are not telling lies to our shareholders. In the same respect, I was saying in the House of Lords, politicians must not lie, and claims that they make must be qualified by external parties such as accountants and lawyers. So if they want to talk about so many millions of pounds are being paid here, fine. If it is qualified and true, say it. Because I do believe a lot of people were misled. The current status at the moment is that and here's something that you've all got to realise, is that so we voted to leave. And then Cameron went off and he left it to Mrs May to deal with it. And she was not a leaver. She wanted to remain, but had to try to deliver a position, had to do the best job to deliver something for us, the country. What do you do when you're negotiating with a brick wall? You're all business people here, okay? The European Union didn't ask us to leave. We said we're leaving. What's in it for them? Why should they bend and agree to demands that people like Gove and Johnson are talking about now, and that other twat, what's his name? The bloke in the pinstripe suit, what's his name? Yeah. I mean, were they round the table negotiating for the past 2 years, experiencing the negative response from who we're negotiating with? No, they weren't. A lot of speculation in the media. It's a terrible job, it's a bad deal, it's a nasty deal, it's a horrible deal. Yeah, it is. It is a bad deal. And I think Mrs. May, in the privacy of her home, would admit to herself it is a lousy deal. But we had to do a deal. We had to do a deal. We said we're going on the 29th of March. We have to do a deal. Because on the 30th of March, all these idiots that are talking about just tell them to get stuffed and we're going to do no deal, we're just going to walk away. It's total rubbish. It's garbage. You can't just walk away. On the 30th of March, airlines would stop operating because they wouldn't be allowed to fly into European airspace, for example, unless there was an agreement. You, as a member of the public, in theoretically, walking into France could be stopped and they say, well, we don't have a deal. Who are you? You're from England. We don't have a deal with you about whether you can come into our country. We don't have an arrangement. We don't know whether you need a visa. We don't know we don't recognise your passport. So you have to have a deal. And I think the deal that has been done is a bad deal. It's a bad deal for us, but we had to do a deal. And one of the things that the European Union has conceded, and this is the positive side of things, is that we're a big customer. England's a tremendous market for them, and so they had to concede that free movement of goods has to be on top of the agenda. So that's the good news. The good news, as far as I'm concerned, is that movement of goods will still be okay and there won't be any tariffs imposed and all that stuff. And one thing that baffles me is how Mrs. May, about 18 months ago, or just shortly after the vote, went to Sunderland and said to Nissan, don't worry. Now, I don't know whether she had some kind of ball that she was looking into, because I tell you what, I would bloody worry if I was working for Nissan in Sunderland, simply because if you look at Nissan, why they came to Sunderland is they wanted a base in the United Kingdom to produce goods in order for them to produce their cars and be able to ship them free to the European Union. On March the 30th, if you had no deal, if you tried to ship a Nissan car into Europe, they would have imposed a 10% import duty on it, just like there are for American cars, just like there are for Australian cars or whatever. Yeah? The knock-on effect would be that their cars would become uncompetitive, and eventually they'd close the place down. Now people say to me, yeah, but don't worry about that. BMW will do, they'll have to pay 10% to come into us. And Mercedes, they'll have to pay 10% to come into us also. But the out-of-work Nissan worker doesn't give a monkeys about the price of a BMW going up or a Mercedes going up. That's the point that is missing. Eggs, milk, thought about that? Thought about the subsidies that the farmers get paid for producing milk and selling it below its real cost? What's going to happen on the 30th of March? I have no clue. But what I do know is that there's a bad deal's been done which allows us to still trade, and I think we still have free movement from I take that back, from a people's point of view. We'll be able to travel but not work in Europe, in other countries. So sorry to take such a long time to answer your question, but that's my view on where we are at the moment. Not good.
All right, Lord Sugar, to your left. Question here.
Hi, Lord Sugar. I'm the owner of Boss Brew, which is a brewery in Swansea. So since you've been on stage, you've spoken about launching products that didn't sell, up as far as products that were the best sellers in their category. So what was the difference between those two products?
Sorry, I didn't catch that last bit. Say again.
I said, since you've been on stage, you've talked about products that you've launched that didn't sell at all, as far as products that were the best sellers in their category. So what's the difference? How do you get a best-selling product, basically?
It's pretty blatantly obvious, isn't it? If it doesn't sell, it's a bad product, no? I'm not sure I've understood your question. I didn't go out of my way to design bad products. I thought it was a good one when we were designing it. It turned out to be a bad one afterwards. So, you know it's a bad product when it doesn't sell, or it's not accepted by the public for some reason or other. Gentleman up there, his arm's going to fall off if you don't go. See him right at the back.
I'll come to him next. There's a lot of arms falling off.
Afternoon, Lord Sugar. Simon Clark. I started a property-related company about 14 months ago. And
what company?
A property-related company. Okay, so there's again the 3 points you mentioned earlier on about having the idea, the cash or the investment, and the provenance or the knowledge. Again, we've got all three. There's very limited or very little competition in our market, but our challenge now is scaling it up. So one of the key issues that I'd like to cross off my list today was trying to get some sort of mentor. So I'm very keen to understand and engage with the AMS Vest side of your operations. So we'll be filling in the form. What do I need to put in the form apart from the obvious that's going to get my details up to your level?
I'm not understanding your question, I'm sorry. You've got a property company and you want to do what? Can you just cut to the chase?
Okay, we need a mentor now, essentially. So we're going to be engaging with AMS Vest.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I mean, the simple answer is that not really. I mean, everybody here would like me to invest in them, wouldn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. But apart from the obvious, is
But I don't know. I haven't seen your balance sheet. I haven't seen your accounts. All I've heard is that you think you're very good.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of people would say that here also.
Of course.
Write in, just write into the company, and we've got people that appraise these propositions that are being put to us. I think you've got a bit of a liberty trying to pitch yourself here in this forum. Okay. How about that gentleman at the back?
On my way.
Tom Seabury.
As Tracy mentioned, my name is Tom Seabury from Thermal Compaction Group. We've invented technology to recycle single-use plastics for the NHS and the councils. But my question to you is, you started business at a very young age, and how did you distinguish between your friends and your business friends and the diversity between the two? Because you get a lot of friends asking for mates rates and everything else, but if you gave all your friends free things, you would have a business. So how did you work that out?
Yeah, I think it's following on from another lady's question earlier on about the balance of life, really. My friends, I got 5 very, very good friends that I've known since I was 15. And they're still my very good friends. One of them's a taxi driver, another one worked in Carphone warehouse for however long, another one actually turned out to be a magistrate, and another one is in the paper industry. So from all different walks of life. And they're still my friends, and friends have got nothing to do with me building my business. I never ignored my friends. And neither did they come to me and ask for anything special, so to speak. I suppose they looked up in admiration, really. Yeah. But I think it's quite a good point you're raising, because sometimes people get carried away with themselves, and when they get into business and they start to get very successful, and then you might not like them anymore. not your friends, but your friends might not like you because you might think you've become a bit of a big shot. You might think you can actually walk on water. You suddenly start slinging your weight around and all that stuff. Horrible, that is. Horrible people, I think. Donald Trump's one of those people. Fortunately, I'm not like that. So I think it's important for you to keep your feet on the ground. So if you're nice and successful, great. But you know, your mates and your friends and everybody else, they should still see you as the same person as you were. Yeah.
Last two questions from the floor.
Gemma?
Okay.
Gemma?
Yes, Gemma. Come back to you. Gemma.
Good afternoon. We've got an outsourced HR company, and I was just wondering what you think are the most important things you've learned about getting the best out of your employees.
Sorry, ma'am, can you just repeat the first bit?
We've got an outsourced HR company.
And the question is?
What do you think is the most important thing that you've learned about getting the best out of your employees?
It's an interesting thing. I've got employees that have worked for me for over 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, believe it or not, they've grown up with me. And the average, people that work for me at the moment have been with me for 10 and 15 years. And we don't have that Google type environment with bean bags and flicking elastic bands at each other and table tennis tables and all being happy and hugging. I think you just have to be nice and decent to your staff and make them feel wanted, motivated, and from time to time tell them they've done a good job and all that stuff. And I was talking to Mark earlier on, I think some of you, Mark Wright, the digital marketing guy there, and we were talking about how difficult it is for him to recruit people nowadays, because the type of people that work for him, they want to be able to come to work with their dog and their poodle in torn jeans, come in at maybe 11 o'clock in the morning, work for 3 hours, have a little sleep in the afternoon, go home, come back at 8 o'clock at night, and carry on there. And I think it's the Googles of these worlds that have made that kind of environment out there. And I do sympathise with him, because in that particular market that he's in, that's the criteria upon which people want to work in. Fortunately, I don't employ those kind of people. I think if you're just thankful for their work and you encourage them and give them a pat on the back every so often, look at my company and you wonder why these people have stuck with me for so many years. It's got to be doing something right.
One last question.
Last question from the floor, Lord Sugar.
I'm Josephine and I'm here with the Young Enterprise Group, and my question is, how have social, environmental and ethical considerations become more important in your business making decisions?
I wish I understood that question, love. Can you kind of articulate it in Hackney language for me, please, rather than this Google language? Yeah.
I'm basically asking just how
you don't have to ask it yourself, do you?
How is it important to become more environmentally friendly in this age?
What? Environmentally friendly?
Yeah, how has it become more important?
Well, it's become a big issue, isn't it? Environmentally friendly in products and plastics. We've been hearing a lot about plastics lately. We've been hearing about biodegradable stuff and all that. So, yeah, it's kind of an occupational hazard. Go back 40 years or 50 years when I started, we didn't even think about things like that. The environment in which we work, the work environment, and the health and safety didn't exist. So it's an important part of industry, it's an important part of business this day. It's a very expensive part of the organisation. It's not cheap to keep up with all the things that you've got to do. And every day, and maybe we were hostage to the European Union on this, with certain rules and regulations that were imposed. upon us, but every day there's a new hurdle that you have to overcome. In the electronics industry, we went through an era of, making products which don't use lead in them, for example, because that poisons people, which is fair enough. But it's been used in lead for 50 years, and then suddenly you have to find a process of how you can make electronic printed circuit boards without using lead to solder. You overcome the hurdles. Who ends up getting hurt in the end? You, because you end up paying for it in the shop. It's as simple as that. And every time some new goody-goody thing comes out, that we shouldn't do this and we shouldn't do that, manufacturers have to comply to it. Who ends up paying for it? You. It doesn't get absorbed by the manufacturer or the person providing it. So all these things cost a bit of money, I'm afraid to say.
Well, first of all, we want to thank you, Lord Sugar. It's been a great honour for you talking to the Welsh business community. Could you everyone please give a big round of applause for Lord Sugar?
Lord Sugar, we've just asked him because Intrabiz is all about helping charities as well. And for those who are coming this evening, we've got ABF Soldiers charity event at the Vale Resort. We're going to be hopefully raising thousands and thousands of pounds for them. And Lord Sugar has kindly signed a portrait that has been done by a local artist who's here today. And we're going to hopefully raise thousands of pounds for the charity. So thank you very much, Lord Sugar. Thank you. Very much. We'll now hand you back over to Sean Holly. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.